From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
It's Tuesday and it's 5 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you for starting your day with us. Our top story this morning, it's Election Day. Ballots are already being counted as Billings residents weigh in on 5 city council seats, new marijuana laws, and a more than $7 million public safety levy. It is too late to register to vote now, but you can drop off your ballot up until 8 o'clock tonight. The north doors of the county courthouse will be open until then, and the election office is room 101. Larger cities like Billings have already begun counting votes, and we should have a good idea of election turnout by 8 this evening. Close to 50,000 people are expected to vote. Nationally, eyes are on key races in Virginia, Minnesota, New York, and New Jersey. CBS's Laura Podesta breaks it down.
It comes around once a year, our civic duty to vote, and that day is today. In Virginia, the race for governor had the largest early voting turnout in the state's history. Former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe,
let's win in person. We've already won the early vote, 1.2 million.
Is up against Republican Glenn Youngkin. It's a potential bellwether for how midterm elections will swing next year.
This is our moment where we stand up for our children, for our grandchildren, for our nieces, for our nephews.
In New Jersey, Republican Jack Ciattarelli is challenging incumbent Democrat Phil Murphy. It's another test to see if New Jersey voters will continue to vote blue like they did for Biden, or if the president's dwindling approval numbers will pull voters over to the GOP. Several big cities will be choosing a mayor today, from Boston to Atlanta to here in New York City. Democrat Eric Adams, the borough president of Brooklyn and a retired police officer, is expected to handily beat activist and radio talk show host Curtis Sliwa. Adams would become the Big Apple's second ever black mayor. And in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the city where George Floyd was murdered by a police officer in May 2020, voters will choose whether to disband the city's police department.
I feel like clearly the system in place isn't working, and if it isn't working, we need to change it.
The police department would be replaced by a Department of Public Safety that employs a comprehensive public health approach to law enforcement. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Another interesting race to watch is the seat for mayor in Buffalo, New York. India Walton would become the first socialist to lead a major American city in decades. Now it's time to turn our attention to weather. Miller joins us back here on the set. Welcome back, Miller.
Still on a chocolate high. How was your Halloween?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Oh, little one get a lot of chocolate?
Yeah, she did. She scored big, yes.
All right, show of hands, how many of us have already stolen candy from the kids
Oh,
already?
yeah, you can't even avoid that.
That's
right.
good stuff there.
Part
cool.
of being a parent.
All right. Well, it was our first Halloween here, and we had a wonderful time. Just a big shout out to all the folks on Clark Avenue. We went down there and had a wonderful, wonderful Halloween. All right, so let's get to it. Weather-wise, it is quite chilly out there. You can see pretty calm this morning. 25 at the airport. Feels like 17. Humidity at 78%, so it's a little sticky out there. Winds out the southwest at about 7 miles an hour. Let's crunch those numbers. You know I love to do that. Our high yesterday, well below average, only got up to about 41. Overnight low below average as well, down to about 22. A bit breezy yesterday. Of course, no rain for the month yet. We don't have a lot of rain in the forecast. We'll see some snow in the higher elevations of the Beartooth today. It'll be windy along the foothills as we get into the middle part of the week. What about rain for our area? Well, we may have to wait until maybe Thursday for that to happen. But today it's going to be a dry day, starting off in the 20s with highs today mainly in the 50s, and we're only getting warmer. How warm will it get later this week? I'll let you know that main forecast coming up.
I think a warm up will feel good after yesterday. It was pretty chilly out there. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Miller, thank you so much. I'll get back to news. A pickup truck smashes through the front doors of a Rimrock Mall business, driving 50 feet and destroying almost everything in its path. Today, the owner of DBAT Baseball and Softball Academy can only keep picking up the pieces. The accident happened yesterday morning. The 63-year-old driver was taken to the hospital and his condition is unknown. DBAT's owner says he's not too worried about his damaged plumbing, walls, and training equipment, but is concerned for the victim.
To me, that's all stuff that can be fixed, you know, through insurance and hard work and making the right phone calls. Really, our thoughts are out for the gentleman that went through the business. You know, we don't know exactly how good a shape he's in. They're having a much worse day than we are, so this kind of pairs and pales in comparison to, you know, that family. So we're just kind of praying for them and hoping that he is okay, and we'll get this fixed in time.
Police are still investigating why the man drove into the business. The crash shut down the mall until 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And some tragic news from a crash that shut down Interstate 90 for hours yesterday. 3 Laurel men are dead after the SUV they were in was hit by a semi. The crash happened just after noon between South 27th Street and South Billings Boulevard exits. The men pulled to the side of the road to check on an abandoned vehicle. When they tried to merge back into traffic, a tractor trailer smashed into the passenger side of the SUV, killing the men ages 38, 40, and 44. The driver of the semi was not injured. The Montana Highway Patrol says drugs and alcohol are considered factors in the crash. In other news, it is the final day of President Joe Biden's overseas trip to Italy and Scotland. He'll hold a news conference this afternoon following the final session of the Global Conference on Climate Change. Here's Laura Podesta with details on the president's legislative plans.
We meet with the eyes of history upon us.
Speaking at a United Nations summit in Scotland, President Biden called this a decisive decade to tackle climate change.
To invest in ourselves and build an equitable, clean energy future, and in the process, create millions of good paying jobs and opportunities around the world. Cleaner air for our children, more bountiful oceans, healthier forests and ecosystems for our planet.
Activists from around the globe called on world leaders to act swiftly.
Over 2 million of my fellow Kenyans are facing climate-related starvation.
The rivers are dying, and our plants don't flower like they did before.
But 3,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., Mr. Biden's legislative plan to tackle climate change hit a roadblock Monday.
The political games have to stop.
Despite weeks of negotiations, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin wants more information before supporting the president's Build Back Better agenda. It includes $500 billion to fight climate change.
Simply put, I will not support a bill that is this consequential without thoroughly understanding the impact that it'll have on our national debt.
Manchin wants the House to vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill that the Senate already passed.
We are getting 2 bills to pass the House.
Progressives have blocked that measure until there's a deal on both pieces of legislation. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is hopeful the House can vote on both bills this week. Democrats say the Build Back Better plan agenda is fully paid for by raising taxes on corporations and billionaires. Supreme Court justices gave a skeptical reaction while hearing arguments over the controversial Texas abortion ban. The law delegates enforcement to citizens rather than state officials. Justice Brett Kavanaugh said there's a loophole that's been exploited here. Justice Amy Coney Barrett voiced similar discomfort with allowing citizens to enforce law to avoid legal precedent. It's not known when the justices will announce their decision if Texas can be sued by the Justice Department. Prosecutors in New York say millionaire real estate tycoon Robert Durst has been indicted on a second-degree murder charge for the death of his first wife, Kathy Durst. She disappeared nearly 4 decades ago and her body has never been found. The 78-year-old Durst was recently sentenced to life in prison in California for killing a friend. Now to the latest on the pandemic. The pandemic has forced millions of women to step away from their careers. But when they're ready to get back to work, it is hard to return to the workforce with a gap in their resumes. Reporter Alexa Liaco spoke with a group making sure women can get rehired.
Hang on a second. I'll just put my password in.
Looking for a job is a job itself.
I have a big spreadsheet.
A job that can take months to get paid for.
I'm applying for at least 5 jobs a week.
For mom of 2, Linda Francis,
I have to find work.
She's got decades of experience in technology and design.
I taught myself how to code.
But she's missing one thing.
My last contract was in 2014.
She took a 6-year career break to raise her children.
This is my daughter, hold on.
Now she needs to work.
Hi, Amy, sweetheart.
Hi.
At first I thought I'm just a failure. And I was crushing myself. I'm also going through a divorce. And so there was just this overwhelming feeling that I've just failed at these things. And then I landed on, no, you know what? You're just courageous.
courageous enough to look for a job in the middle of a pandemic.
I think that it's been a godsend, really, because it's expanded the number of opportunities. Now you're not just constrained geographically.
But applying for jobs across the country is no easy task.
It's a hot mess.
1 year into her job search, Linda is still looking.
So I'm 63 years old. There are people that have the prejudice that think that we can't figure our way, we don't know through technology. It's just BS.
So she reached out for help and found Women Back to Work.
It's never too late.
Sonu Ratra founded the organization when she struggled to find work after raising her daughter.
Little did I know that when I tried to return to work, all doors would be shut firmly. And I was in a bit of a shock.
She built a returnship program.
Let's discuss design thinking today.
It connects companies with qualified, experienced women hoping to close their resume gap and gives them the retraining they need to get hired.
We should try to make this really easy for women to weave in and out of the workforce as life happens, without the prejudice and without attaching stigma to it.
The returnship roles are structured in a way that recognizes that you're going to re-enter at a level and into a position that is more commensurate with your actual experience.
And now is a more important time than ever to get experienced women back to work.
And with the pandemic, we saw the impact for women in the workforce. About 2.5 million women left the workforce. To move the economy forward, we're going to need to bring women back into the workforce.
But with each returnship, these women are teaching companies to shift stigma into opportunity.
So it begins with that culture. It begins with, look, it is a priority for me to hire women.
This mom sees that shift with the interviews she's now getting. But more than that, it's also shifted her confidence.
I'm very hopeful that eventually it will come around, and I just believe that the right opportunity is going to find its way to me.
In San Jose, California,
portfolios are not required for this position. Woo! I'm definitely applying for this one.
I'm Alexa Liaco reporting.
And in other news, COVID-19 was the third leading cause of death in Montana in 2020 and is likely to be the same for 2021. More than 1,250 Montanans died from complications from the sickness last year. That number is expected to be even higher this year, as more than 1,100 have already been recorded. COVID-19 trails heart disease, which kills an average of 2,200 Montanans a year, and cancer at almost 2,100 deaths a year. Despite these numbers, COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are on the decline when compared to the surge seen in September. Reporter Maya Rodriguez tells us this is good news for family get-togethers as we head into the holiday season.
For COVID's second holiday go-around, there is cautious optimism.
Now there is a lot of people who have vaccine-induced immunity and a lot of people who have natural immunity, and that's making it harder for the virus to infect people.
Right now, about 58% of the people in the country are fully vaccinated. That's more than 190 million people. There have been 46 million cases of COVID in the U.S. since the pandemic began. Cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are starting to decline from the Delta variant-induced highs of the past few months. But the weather is changing, and as it gets cooler, people will head indoors, giving COVID a chance to spread, according to Johns Hopkins doctor Amish Adalja.
We're still going to see cases. COVID is not going to be eliminated or eradicated. And there are going to be situations where transmission is more likely to occur, specifically unvaccinated individuals in indoor situations.
But for those who are vaccinated, experts say the holiday season could start to look closer to normal.
As long as there's not another variant that sort of mirrors Delta, I would expect that the rates will remain low and that this holiday season could look very different than the last holiday season.
Dr. Carl Mingus with the University of New Haven says getting vaccinated is key to protecting yourself, including those eligible for getting booster shots, and children 5 and up getting their recently approved doses. But he says something else is important too: asking questions before getting together for social gatherings.
And I think it's a fair question to ask your friends and family if you are vaccinated, if their kids have been able to be vaccinated at this point in time, because that will help you to have a more informed decision of your level of risk that you're willing to take.
A holiday season that might be less risky this year, but still not risk-free. I'm Maya Rodriguez.